So today we're going to talk about pavers a little bit. We have some paver capstone. We also have some bark and plants and other things that we're looking at, but I want to mostly go over some pavers. So here we have this old cinder block wall. Been standing for a very long time. It's in decent shape. I believe they're going to stucco it later for a little bit of a nicer look, maybe a little white stucco or something. But when we first came in, it actually had a pink paver edging, kind of capstone type thing up on top like this. We really don't like this kind of stuff. Me in particular, I am really not a big fan of the pink edgings, pink scallop bricks, all this kind of stuff. I really get rid of it a lot of the time whenever I can. So got rid of that. We brought in an Angelus Tuscan color palette for the capstone. These are 9x9 pieces, kind of a little bit wider, kind of a cool look having the big wide ones instead of the rectangles. And then up here there was a little brick edging, a very short little retaining type situation. I just called it an edging. And now we just changed that out for about an 8x4 size Angelus paver, again in the Tuscan style, so it kind of matches everything. It's really kind of cool because the faded cinder block actually kind of blends nicely with the Tuscan, and that's very surprising. It's just an older wall. They are going to stucco it to freshen it up a little bit, but for now it actually kind of blends into it. Before, the pink was just really offsetting that and really not looking that great, you know, so this is much better looking. Before, we just had kind of some dirt in here, some old mulch or something, and just a few plants that were kind of sporadic. So I brought through a whole bunch of echeveria. I call it like a mixed palette or a mixed flat of echeveria we brought in. So we get all sorts of different types and colors. You know, we have those guys, we have some pinks, we have some ruffled, all sorts of fun stuff coming through here. It's really nice. And then we just kind of filled this in with some extra large bark that we brought in. And we're actually still working here, kind of funny if you can see our truck here. And they already had, I think, some of these boulders in here, and it just, this little front area really came together even better than I thought. It's really nice and clean, low maintenance. There's a drip hose running through here. We'll probably cover that up a little bit better. Usually should be invisible. And coming up here, and oh, by the way we mount this to the top of kind of an existing wall would be with like a glue type thing, like a masonry heavy duty glue, like a commercial glue pretty much, you know, so you could just throw it right on top of there like that. Don't really need mortar and concrete and stuff like you would with a mortared brick type style. Now come through here, just a simple little nice accent we have here. I have some large bark through here as well. There's some weed fabric down beneath this. There was just kind of some random sporadic plants through here. We're just kind of refreshing everything. It's kind of like a refresh job where everything was kind of already intact and kind of okay looking, but we're just kind of upgrading all the areas and cleaning stuff up. So there was a few plants in here before, and now we filled it in a little bit more. I can maybe go over this more in the plant video. I use these kinds of plants all the time: kangaroo paws, sages, salvias, New Zealand flax, all sorts of stuff. I have a little 15-gallon purple hop seed down there at the corner, and drip line running through here. I got a few lights through here. I have a floodlight for the big magnolia here, so that'll kind of spread out way up there instead of having a bunch of little tiny lights going everywhere. Just doing the one big floodlight, kind of a nice accent from the street. And then I have a single little, like, kind of standard uplight for the hop seed over there. Not going too much into that. Now this is the fun part. So before, this was a little mortared brick edging planter. This one was actually much higher, as you can see. I actually wanted to bring it down all at the same level, so the landing would be at the same level as the planters. And so this is all brick edging, mortared brick landing and step, kind of in a very similar layout. Except that one's much lower, and now they're all at the same height. So it's really smooth, clean, low, a little bit more contemporary transition there, right? You know, in certain houses, in certain situations, I might want to use brick. That's going to be very rare. Interlocking pavers, you know, you just get a lot more color to it, a lot more color options, variety. You don't have to mortar it really. You know, maybe for the base, just a little bit of mortar to make it strong, maybe a little bit in between, but it's not a whole, you have to perfectly mortar every little square inch of the damn thing. It's just, you know, a very heavy duty glue or something like that will most likely handle it. And then I brought in these plants too. That was just kind of some big bushy jasmine filling in the front of the house, and it was just a little too all over the place for us, so we just cleaned it up a little bit, bring through some nice California type plants that'll do well. Drip irrigation actually runs through here and there. That's one thing to think about as far as irrigation is concerned. If you're redoing the front or you're on the fence about redoing certain areas or not, one plus point if we redid both planters and this front landing is now I can run irrigation, lighting lines, anything down beneath there after this is removed. Right, so I can take all this out. Now I can run my lines underneath before I reinstall something. And even if you think you're going to reinstall some lighting lines or you want to do something later but not really now, you should just run the lines and you can just cap it off on both sides, so you could tap into it later. So you don't have to rip up your pavers and stuff. Ripping up pavers isn't a huge deal compared to other things like concrete, because you can kind of lift them up and move them out of the way most of the time. Obviously this is either semi-mortared or at least glued in, so it's not just, you don't just lift it up, but it is a lot easier than many other options if you need to run a line afterwards, right? But really, just run them before and have it ready if you want to run something later. So, you know, this is the same kind of Angelus colored block with the Angelus Tuscan. You get kind of a lighter gray, you get kind of a coppery, sandy color, and you get kind of a charcoaly, darker gray. Angelus has all sorts of different types like this. This is probably the most contrast you'll get with an Angelus paver as far as the different colors that are involved in it. You know, you have kind of a heavy sand into a heavy light gray into a charcoal. Right, so it is a very diverse one. If it's a more contemporary styled house, I probably wouldn't go with something like this. I would stick to more of a darker gray or a solid color type thing on the pavers. Belgard pavers we use a lot. I really like Belgard in particular. For this project, Angelus worked. They also have some pavers in the back. We can go take a look at actually. We actually did a paver job here a couple years ago, and we used the same color of Angelus paver on the wall. And through here, we did all of this a couple years ago. So these are some skinnier rectangular blocks. They actually don't really make these anymore, so don't get too excited about it. But this is all the Tuscan color. As you can see, it's the same color coming through. You know, we did all the capstone back here as well and up through here. And on these steps, we made all these cuts. You know, you got to cut every single one to fit in here properly. Now, you can see we have a little bit, after we did this, we have a little bit of stuff deteriorating. We are actually going to fill this in with some skinny, you know, about quarter-inch thick Angelus Tuscan pavers, two stacked here. So we are going to fill that in. We weren't expecting the damage from that, but you know, of course, rain can get in between the pavers. They are permeable, meaning water can get in between them. So it did damage the stucco a little bit. The wall is doing great, so that's the really good news, of course. But this, they probably have a good drainage system back behind this wall. But in this particular case, you know, we're just going to cover that up with some pavers and maybe do a little bit of waterproofing or something like that. And that's it for back here. So yeah, this is so this whole patio here actually has a sand base and a road base in there. So it's a compacted road base and sand base down beneath for drainage. It's all graded properly. It's a very nice little paver job they did here. And you know, we have a herringbone style coming through here where it's zigzag like that, right? And then coming around the outside, we have that single line, right? Because you don't want your herringbone to just randomly end on the edge and there's just a bunch of pieces jetting out, right? So with a lot of paver designs, you're going to want to do an edging like this. With the more contemporary style pavers that I like to do more often personally, with the dark grays or kind of gray mix types, you know, maybe a little bit cleaner looking without the beiges or browns and stuff in there. What I would want to do a lot of the time is actually have this as a solid colored paver. So you have a solid dark colored paver coming through. So like my shirt color or something, right? That'd be a nice color to come through the outside. You can get pavers like that. And then, of course, with the more contemporary style, it's not really herringbone. It's more like the mixes of rectangles and squares in a random pattern is kind of the style. Belgard has a lot of stuff like that, and Catalina Grana and a couple others. Catalina Grana is the most popular standard Belgard paver. I use them a lot. And then Angelus Courtyard Stone is the more contemporary Angelus paver. These are antique cobble. These are kind of a, cobble means that it's just a little rounded on the edges, and they actually age them by spinning them in a concrete mixer, and they tumble around, and then they look a little older, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing. But, you know, a little bit sharper edges and rectangular pieces and squares are what I like to use a little bit more often. But, hey, this looks fantastic, you know. And it's not some crazy contemporary house that calls for some contemporary pavers, you know. So this looks great, and the color is great. And so we brought that out front. Now everything matches. We had some options out front. If they wanted to choose something else, that was totally fine. We still just went with the Tuscan. It just makes sense. And that's pretty much it for the paver video.